Hello everyone, Rascal Entertainment's here.
And Mama Entertainments. Welcome to our podcast.
Today we're going down memory lane of another great animation network, Nickelodeon.
We'll talk about most of the shows we love to watch, both on Nickelodeon and Nicktoons, and their very creative bumpers and promotions.
This time we're talking about the promotions first, because every time we start with the shows, we use up all our time. We have to wait till next time.
The first thing we're going to talk about and highlight before we get into the podcast is three great shows on Nickelodeon, and that we'll be covering them in future podcasts. One is The Loud House, and we'll be covering that in our May podcast on family animated shows. El Tigre.
In June for Awesome Latin Heroes. And Danny Phantom in October for the spooky time of year.
And he gets his own podcast. So we won't talk about those today only because they're going to get dedicated podcasts, but they are three of our favorite Nickelodeon shows.
Yep. And now we want to mention a few shows that we will not cover, but we want to give a shout out to all these great shows that we watched over the years.
Right.
First off, Chalk Zone.
Chalk Zone, I love the theme song, the intro song.
Yeah, it's just so catchy. That's like the number one thing. If you don't remember anything else from the show, you'll remember the theme song.
And the one episode that we both liked, that we watched it not too long ago, and it was the one where, oh gosh, don't you remember when we watched it?
Is it one with all the Santas?
Yes.
Oh yeah, all the Santas that take off so they could deliver presents in the chalk realm. That was really good.
And then there's Doug, which I love to watch, actually before Rascal was born. And that later on got picked up by Disney. Yeah. But I thought Doug was a great show. It had fun characters, and I really loved Pork Chop. And they had some great lessons and just some really creative ways of addressing different issues and different things that would go on in a teenager's life. Great show. What do you think of that?
Well, I've only seen like one episode, the one where the dog fell in love with a poodle and he kept trying to serenade her and it didn't work. That's pretty much all I've watched. And I thought that was pretty funny when they had the Nick Rewind on Demand. And I know that it had a theatrical movie after Disney got it. They could not afford to do a theatrical movie, so Disney got the rights to finish the show and do a movie. Then they canceled it.
Yeah.
So, which did not make a lot of sense, but hey. Now, next up is Mimes the Teenage Robot, which I loved watching when I was little.
Right.
I was coming on Nickelodeon and Nicktoons. I've seen, I think, every episode of that, and it's just a awesome show and kind of underrated for the network because people love it and remember it, but you see they don't really bring it up much in the network when it comes to their projects or going back to older shows.
Yeah, I thought it was a really cute show, and I thought she was really cute. And yeah, it's amazing too that you don't see any reruns of this show either.
And created by Robin Zetti, who you know working on Gravity Falls and the new DuckTales and a couple other projects.
Another one is one of my favorites, and I know you liked it too, but I loved Invader Zim.
Yeah, one of the creepiest shows that Nickelodeon ever did, and probably was canceled because of that. But it still was really fun. It was like Tim Burton's brainchild came to life.
Right, and when they still had Blockbuster videos, we would walk to Blockbuster and rent the DVDs, and that's how we got to see the entire series. And I really loved Invader Zim. He was just like you said, so it was creepy, and it was kooky, and it was funny, and it had offbeat humor and offbeat characters, and just the premise of the show was hilarious. This alien who was such a screw up on his own planet, they pretended to have a mission on Earth just to get rid of him, and he thought it was a serious mission and was really trying to do what they told him to do.
And they were surprised he made it there. My favorite episode was really quick is the moment where he bought this giant destructing machine and he was inside and was supposed to make him invisible and the machine was, but he wasn't. And Dib told him, you know, I can still see you. He's like, what? No, it's invisible. No, the machine's invisible. I can still see you sitting there. And he's like, you can still see me. Yeah. Oh, that's just stupid. Come on. Well, luckily the show's coming back with the movie soon, so can't wait to see how they finally finish off the series.
Right, I'm so excited. And the next two are two of your favorites again.
Angry Beavers and Cat Dog. And love watching both of those. Most of them came on like early in the morning. And back when it was on the weekends, I was able to watch a few of them, especially Cat Dog.
And I used to like the theme. What in the world is a little cat dog?
Yeah, that was hilarious. And even though I don't remember every episode, they still had a lot of memorable moments. The characters were fun. It was kind of strange like Invader Zim, but not as creepy. But it's still, for a strange premise, it was still funny. You wonder how the heck how did that even happen? And the one episode I do remember was when a magician split them in half as part of the act, and they were happy like, I'm finally free, and then they realized they missed each other, and they put us back.
And it was so weird. I remember you were watching and look at it, and I would just think to myself, so many unanswered questions. Just looking at Cat Dog.
Oh gosh.
The next one that we both like, that was really not too long ago, was Back at the Barnyard, which was from the Barnyard movie.
Right, and I love the movie, and my Nana, she loves the TV show. I kind of like it. I personally, this is me, I enjoyed the movie a little more because they took a slightly more serious tone and more action. It was more in-depth than the spin-off, which was basically comedy, and they kind of removed some characters for no reason. But it's still a good show. I just personally enjoy the movie a little more. But for the show, it's definitely very fun and crazy adventures every day, just trying to make sure no one sees them walking and talking. And next, we have the X's, which you actually never saw. It was a short-run spy series. It was literally a family of spies, and they were literally undercover every single day, and they had to pretend they were a normal family, and every day they had missions. They had to fight this guy who had this giant red head, like those little things you see at the science lab, where you touch your fingers on electricity and it kind of shocks you. Yeah, that's the pretty much the basis of it for the entire season. It was actually really fun. Too bad it got cut short, and even had the big names like Patrick Warburton doing the voices of one of the family members.
He really stands out as any character he does. He's got a distinctive voice.
And then last but not least, we have the Mighty Bee. And I watched that too, but you actually watched a few episodes of that, and it was about this little Girl Scout. She wants to become a superhero called the Mighty Bee. She thinks if she collects all the badges that's required of the troop, every single badge ever, she'll become the superhero, and that's pretty much the base of her doing all this weird stuff in the show. And our favorite episode, really goes in the summer special they had, where they had to get back their I guess their meetup place from a group called Dragonflies, and leader's voiced by Maya Rudolph, and they had to do this whole scavenger hunt game.
Sherry.
Right, to do the whole scavenger hunt game to go get it back, and it was just really fun and well done.
Yes, I do think that's my favorite episode. And it was voiced by Amy Poehler.
Yeah.
She used to be on Saturday Night Live, and it was so strange when I found out that was her doing that voice. It was like, she was so convincing. You never would have thought she was an adult. So.
Right.
So now we're going to talk about some standout favorites on Nickelodeon, and we're going to start out with a combination of Rocko's Modern Life and SpongeBob SquarePants. We're going to do it as a combo because Rocko's Modern Life is one of my favorite Nickelodeon shows, and I watched this long before Rascal, I think. I'm pretty sure. And what really surprised me is when my favorite character, Heifer, I found out was voiced by Tom Kenny, and I remember when I told Rascal this was one of my favorite shows, and she says, "Oh, Tom Kenny was on that show," and I said, "Don't tell me that he was Heifer," and you said, "Okay, I won't." And I'm like, "Oh," and because his posterior is so superior. But Rocko was a wallaby from Australia, and he had for friends Heifer, who was a heifer, and he had a turtle who,
I think it's Herbert. I believe it was,
and he was married to a fox. And they had these hilarious going-ons every day, and they had neighbors, Mr. and Mrs. Bighead, were these giant fish with huge heads. And every episode was just fun. Rocko was the straight man, Heifer was the funny man, and the turtle was just like somewhere in the middle. And it was a great show. It was nothing like it that had been on before, and really surprisingly, there's nothing on like it now. Rocko's Modern Life is a one-of-a-kind show.
True.
And I'm really grateful for that show, not only because I have some really good memories from it, but also because of introducing us to your favorite voice actor, Tom Kenny.
Right. And this was actually his very first voice acting role as Heifer. Because before SpongeBob, he was on this first. He was a comedian, and then he got this role suggested by a friend. And then that led up to him being the voice of SpongeBob when I believe John Cryer was supposed to be the voice of SpongeBob first. And he declined to do it, and then Tom Kenny took his place, and now he is now iconic in history as SpongeBob SquarePants.
And I like John Cryer, but I can't imagine him as SpongeBob. I can't imagine anyone else on Earth doing SpongeBob but Tom Kenny.
Right.
I mean, Tom Kenny is SpongeBob. Literally, he's SpongeBob.
Right. And he loves his role.
And you know how I tell you, sometimes we talk and I say, there are these characters that could not exist without the voice actors. SpongeBob is one with Tom Kenny. Wanda is one with Jack McBrayer. I mean, there's just no way on earth Wanda would be Wanda without Jack McBrayer. And then, as you were talking about Patrick Warburton and Kronk and just the characters he voices, they are all so memorable because his voice is distinct in his personality. So there are many like that where the characters just could not exist without the voice actors. But Tom Kenny, yes, he is the master of being a voice actor who that character, there's just no character without him doing it.
Right. And I did watch quite a few episodes of Rocko. We even own a DVD, which we got to open still. And the one I remember most from when it aired on TV was this really strange episode for some reason where Rocko had to get his appendix taken out.
And you were watching reruns.
Yeah.
You were definitely watching reruns.
Right, on the Nicktoons station. And he had to get his appendix taken out. And I don't know what the heck this was about. His appendix came to life, and he got to spend one more day with it. I guess it was imagination. He got to spend one more day with it before they took him out.
Right.
And he went to the carnival and everything, and he was in pain half the time, but he was trying to spend one last day with the pain before they took him out. You know, thank you so much, because he went to, like, organ heaven or something.
Right.
Like, what the heck is this?
That reminds me of Marco with the naysayer on his neck.
Yes,
it's just one more day. I've never eaten cereal. I've never gone to the movies.
I've never been to the movies. You gotta go after this.
But yes, that is one of the hilarious episodes. And that kind of stuff happened all the time on that show. I mean, all this stuff that was absolutely impossible was possible in Rocko's Modern Life. It was done with such humor and great writing. And, of course, a theme song that stuck out. That was done by the B-52s, which probably you won't know, but if you've got parents watching, they'll know who the B-52s are. And Rocko's Modern Life definitely is a part of my young adulthood that I will not forget. Now let's talk about...
Oh, wait. Before we get to the next show, I would like to bring up that Rocko is getting a series finale movie called Static Cling, in which he is in the 21st century, and all the stuff he remembers from the show no longer exists.
Oh my gosh.
The comic books, there's no more comic book stores, all digital. All the superhero movies are dark and edgy and realistic. Everyone has a cell phone. All the food is disgusting and horrible, and he's scared as heck of this universe that is no longer this little kooky universe he knows. It's all modern technology and just chaos in this world he doesn't know.
Spielberg, that was the turtle.
Oh, that was Herbert.
But it's going to be great to see how this plays out, especially, and I know they have to bring back Tom Kenny.
Oh yeah, the whole cast is, just about the entire cast is back. So this is
going to be exciting to see. I'm really, really, really pumped up about seeing it. So let's talk about SpongeBob SquarePants now, which was actually your first animated show that you remember and the character that you love.
Oh my gosh, and I didn't even know this. Now, I love SpongeBob, and I know that recently the episodes have been kind of mixed. With the early on episodes from seasons 3 and 4 to the movie, have had lots of memorable episodes, memorable quotes, and lines that are counting people still quoting today. And I know after that, some people say it's gone downhill, but actually, some episodes in the newer one are actually pretty good, and some of them aren't. I personally did not care for its sequel, Sponge Out of Water, but it was a good attempt.
Right.
And some episodes from the new edition, yeah, I do agree some of them are kind of overboard and some of their topics are just not funny. But I will say a shout out to one of the newer episodes I did like was the Mimic Madness, where he kept pretending to be other people, and he did it for so many days, and did over 78,000 impressions, including the narrator. He forgot who he was, and he had this little emotional musical number about he doesn't know who he is anymore, and they were trying to get him back because he lost his identity being everybody else. So, yeah, as you were saying, the original has so many, and I want to point out that I know you're going to talk about your favorite episode of the original.
Well, actually, I was just going to say the classic, I remember only because Rascal wanted to see it. And once I watched a few episodes, I loved it. Not like she did, but I did love it I loved it. That's just the best way to put it. I didn't love it like her because SpongeBob was it. But I really did like the show itself and some of the shenanigans they would get into and how they would go out resolving these things that they would build into these huge problems that really were small problems, but with SpongeBob and Patrick, they became major issues. Right. And some of the characters, too, that are really, really iconic. So go ahead and tell us more about one of your favorite shows.
Right. And then I want you to tell them about your favorite episode, too, because I know you'll love it.
Okay.
Yes, there's so many iconic episodes, like the pizza delivery, the Krusty Krab pizza is the pizza Tivoli, and the one where they're selling chocolate bars and they couldn't sell any because they just were horrible salesmen. There's what else was there?
Don't forget about the Krabby Patty. Don't forget about Plankton always trying to get the Krabby Patty.
Right. He's still doing it now. It's like, how many ideas you got? You think he run out by now, but no.
Being married to a computer.
Yeah.
And then I like the one where he almost got the recipe because he fooled SpongeBob into thinking that he was Mr. Krabs.
Oh yeah, the crab board. Right. Yeah. Mr. Krabs is a robot. He must be a robot. Oh yeah, those were just so many memorable, like I said, memorable episodes, memorable quotes, memorable characters, and even today they become memes, and everyone remembers those lines, and just the adventures, and they were fun, and SpongeBob was so good-hearted. He had a limit of how far you could push him, which you didn't think existed, like when Squidward was living at his place till he found a job and he started to take advantage of him, and he was treating him like crap, and SpongeBob finally couldn't take it anymore and kicked him out. It's like when he had a limit, because now he's kind of so clueless that he doesn't realize when people don't like him, but that's what you kind of love. SpongeBob had a heart, but he had a limit to how far you could push him or take advantage of his kindness, and then he's like, okay, you need to get out.
I don't know, because Patrick pushes anybody's limit, and he's still a friend with Patrick, so I don't know if he's ever had a limit crossed. Patrick is one different character. I mean, just in terms of his personality and how, as you said, clueless SpongeBob is. Patrick seems to be clueless all the time.
Right.
And yet he's still friends with Patrick.
Right.
They had that one falling out.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, I do remember that. Squidward had to get back together because they were trying to be his friend. It was almost like a breakup. Right. And he's like, I gotta get them back together out of my hair.
And Squidward was a different character himself because he was this gruff character and he didn't want to be bothered and he was so full of culture.
Right.
And
Clarinet couldn't even play.
Right. But SpongeBob always wanted to be his friend, and at Squidward's lowest points, SpongeBob would be there to pick him up.
Right.
And the episode I remember, and I don't know if that's the same one you're talking about with the pizzas, is where SpongeBob just wanted to deliver that pizza.
Yeah, and they went through all that.
And then when it went wrong, he was sad and he was crying. And Squidward showed he had a heart and did what he needed to do to cheer him up.
Yeah, the guy, they went through all this crap to deliver the pizza, and the guy said, "Where's my drink?" He said, "Our drink? My Dr. Kel, don't tell me you forgot my drink. I can't take this." And he threw it out. I'm not buying it. He was so mean to him. Right. And Squidward started crying, and Squidward said, "Here, it's on the house." And he knocked him out. He said, "No, he took the pizza here. Oh, one bite. Let's go home." It's like, oh.
And then there was a second time that I remember that Squidward showed deep down he really liked him was the Christmas episode. They first learned about Santa Claus. Yeah.
And oh yeah, Squidward kept saying, "There's no such thing as Santa Claus. No such thing as Santa Claus," and he would not participate in the festivities. And by the time it got to near the end, when they realized Santa never came because they didn't know they were supposed to go to sleep in order for him to visit, and they were all mad. SpongeBob was so sad, and he said, "Here, I got you something anyway," even though Santa came. And then he found he gave him a little carved clarinet with his initials on it. Yes. It was mechanical. He's like, "Oh, this is so great. I feel like and then there's a picture of a donkey. Right. I feel like a jerk." And he pretended to be Santa. Right. So he was like he came and visited SpongeBob.
Right. So that was another episode. I think those episodes where there would be like this change of heart for Squidward, I really like those episodes.
Right.
And there's more I could think of, but those are the two main ones that I can think of. Tell me, what do you think, since you're like a childhood viewer all the time from you, a little bitty tyke, what for you made SpongeBob memorable and work so that still now, as a teen, you love SpongeBob and you love Tom Kenny? Besides Tom Kenny, what else made SpongeBob
I think it has to be the creativity in all these episodes. Even if they don't have a lot of good episodes now, they still have lots of creative ideas, whether they're executed well or not. But for the beginning, there were just so many great ideas, and the characters were very unique. With Patrick and Squidward and Sandy and Mr. Krabs and Plankton, all these characters were very unique, and the ideas were very fun. The dialogue was hilarious. That people reenact episodes now. I've seen live action reenactments of it, and they remember a line from heart. And even the background character, the background fish, half the time now they're jerks, but in the beginning they were just so, you love them as much as the regular characters. Like one time SpongeBob was missing and the whole town, Sandy got the whole town to go look for him, and the whole city went out into these far reaches of the ocean to go look for SpongeBob. And he was never missing in the first, but they were all that concerned, like, we'll go look for him, and they were all getting her, but they all were trying to look for him. It was just so funny how endearing everybody is, even if they weren't the main characters and they were just the background or the side. It was still fun to see everybody and what they would do and the lines they would say. And of course, the immortal gag was someone shouting, "My leg!" or, "Oh, brother, this guy stinks!" You still hear those to this day.
And I think it's incredible and historical even that this show has been on this long. What year did it originally come on? 1999. And still in 2019, you're going on 20 years. This show is still on and popular and watched by millions of kids around the world and some adults. I think for me, also some of the songs they made, and I love that they didn't have songs all the time.
Right now.
And just overkill. But one of my favorite ones that I remember is Ripped Pants. That episode.
Oh my gosh.
He says, "Be true to yourself.
Yeah, to yourself, don't be a fool, and you won't end up like the fool who ripped his pants." Yeah, they turned into this whole concert. Like, wait a minute, you were just sitting on the beach. How did you get a concert?
It was so funny. I remember when it first came on, and you heard the music, and you hear the tropical music, and then I kept saying, "Was that Tom Kenny singing?" You're like, "No." I was like, "Really?"
Yeah, it was actually a big singer, a big time singer.
But you told me it was the person who wrote it was actually an old actor that our Nana likes, and it was sung by you don't remember the singer?
Unfortunately, no, because I've only seen his name once. I had no idea who it was at first, and I saw it one time, and then that was it.
But it was great. I mean, it was so memorable that out of, all these different episodes I've seen, not as many as you, but Ripped Pants, still to this day, I can start hearing it in my head, and I can hear the song from beginning to end, and I'm smiling and laughing, and just happy about this kid's cartoons that has this song about a guy ripping his pants.
Right? And I know, last one I'll bring up is, I know that you love, the episode is, and they're probably one of the most iconic episodes of all time,
Band Geeks.
Yeah.
I love Band Geeks. That is my favorite episode of all time. I love how, again, it's another one of those episodes where Squidward is the center, and you see that he really is human and that he has feelings. And what I thought was really great about the episode is that Squidward is always mean to everybody. But in his time of need, SpongeBob, with his rousing speech, got everybody to join in and pretend to be his band in practice. Because, what was the guy's name? The jerk Squid what?
Squilliam Fancy.
Squilliam Fan, yeah. He was an even bigger jerk than Squidward.
Right.
And he just wanted to make him feel low and unaccomplished and a failure. But SpongeBob, being the true friend that he is to everyone, got them to do this song, and this song was so awesome. I mean, it was epic. An epic song like this in a kid's cartoon.
Right.
It's about nothing but silliness. And every time I can watch an episode over and over, and I can hear the song
just so
over
fun.
and over.
I've even done a mashup doing the episode, and it's just, like I said, iconic. It's considered the greatest episode of the entire series, and it's still going.
And watching the characters as they go about and do it, and the fireworks, and you can see Squidward's face. He's like, oh my gosh, he was so happy that his friends helped him.
Victory.
And then you see Squilliam looking like, oh.
He kind of just passed out, like, oh, and they had to carry him out. And they're like, yes, yes. And then there's that last shot when they're singing and fading out, like, yes,
and they
he
jump
won.
in the air.
I won.
And it was such a testament in its own silly way to friendship and the power of friendship. Even though that's not being said, that's what you get.
Right.
And it was like, this is such a heartwarming episode with an epic song and just a great story. And yes, that is my favorite episode, with Rip Pants being my second.
Oh my God.
What are your, name just a couple of your favorite episodes by title.
Okay, Pizza Delivery, just because the Krusty Krab pizza
Which you mentioned
is
earlier.
the pizza after Tivoli. Let's see what else is there. That's the one I remember the most. There's the chocolate with nuts, as I mentioned before. Right. There was the one where Squidward, Can You Spare a Dime? And Frankendoodle.
Okay.
And,
which I love. That was a great one.
Christmas Who, of course.
What's the name of the one where Mrs. Puff gave him driving lessons?
Boating School.
Yes, that's a favorite too. Oh my gosh, yes. So.
Yeah, Boating School. And then I think it would be the one where he was going to everybody's dreams. I'm not sure what the name of that was. I think it was Sleepy Time, I think.
Okay.
And he was going to everybody's dreams and messing them up by accident.
Well, this is a great show for many, many reasons. And thank you, Tom Kenny, and thank you, Nickelodeon, for giving Rascal all these wonderful memories that she has and finding ways to entertain her at times when I needed to, and entertaining me when I watched as well. This is like one of the most memorable shows of all time.
Right.
Even if it ever goes off,
Right.
It's going to be still, I think, for decades, gonna just have a lasting impression and be shown in reruns. I think, in my opinion, that SpongeBob is the Simpsons of Nickelodeon.
Right. Oh, wait, one more mention. The Krusty Krab training video. That's another favorite.
That was great.
All right.
So now we're going to move on to our next two shows. Actually, next three shows. And they're kind of, I'm going to call them classic or old school series. Rugrats, Ren and Stimpy, and Hey Arnold. Now, for those out there who maybe haven't seen Rugrats and Ren and Stimpy, these shows were on in the earlier 90s, before probably a lot of you were here. I know before Rascal was here. And they would come on every Sunday. So first you would have Rugrats, and then you would have Ren and Stimpy, and it was just a powerful hour of fun and laughter and good, clean fun. Even though Ren and Stimpy had some of the, Powdered Toast Man, it was still clean viewing for adults and for kids. We'll start with Rugrats, which had some great voice actors such as Tara Strong and
they had the late Christine Canova as Chucky, and and what was the person? Kathy Sushi, and yeah, there were just
Cree Summer,
right? And yeah, there were just so many memorable people on there, especially when the series was going off. There were lots of memorable characters and the voice actors along with it. Because as the show, because it looks like I know they said it looks like it was going on because they started adding a lot of new characters. Like Chucky got a little sister. Tommy got a little brother. Grandpa got remarried. It just started piling.
So Rugrats, when it first started, it was a show that was different and the first of its kind. You have all these babies and one toddler, Angelica, who are in their own little world. And in their world, you can hear them talking to each other. And the adults couldn't understand them, didn't know they were talking, but we, the audience viewing, would see all these capers that they had as babies. And we would see their imagination. Well, Reptar came to life and all these different things would come to life. Or they'd have these events like the movie where they got lost and just these incredible things would happen that couldn't happen that would keep them safe. Angelica was the bully, but she was not a bully in the sense of what bullies are now. She was just like a, I would say, what's the word I'm looking for? She was,
I guess, a verbal bully.
Spoiled brat bully. Yeah. Spoiled brat bully. She was a spoiled brat. That's exactly what she was.
Like princess.
And, right. And then most of the time she picked on them, but she wouldn't let any other people pick on them. She was the only one who could torture them and pick on them. But it was such a great premise for a cartoon that never been done. And yes, it was for kids, but I'm telling you, there were so many adults that watched this show, so many teens that watched this show. I was young and I was watching this show, and as you mentioned, the show changed as it went along. You had the addition of other characters, and then before it went off the air, they had All Grown Up, which was the children as teenagers. And I have to be honest, that show, I didn't care for it. Yeah. I know that I was happy the voice actors still having work, and it was great they were trying to branch out and do something different and make it attractive to viewers who had gotten older.
So, like, make them grow up with the audience.
Right, but it just didn't have the same appeal and the same thing that made you love Rugrats as teens. Right. And the movie was great. I mean, the movie stuck to what made the show great.
Yeah, all three, despite critics, all three of them were great and were loved by fans. Can you remember all three, right?
Oh, I've watched all three, absolutely.
Yeah, then there's the original movie, then there's Rugrats in Paris, and then Rugrats Go Wild, which was actually also a crossover with
Wild Thornberrys. Right. But yeah, I love all three movies, and I really loved Rugrats, and as I said, All Grown Up was just okay, but it cut a niche for itself within animation. You haven't had any shows like Rugrats come out. It can't be duplicated, and these studios and companies have been really smart not to try to do it because it just wouldn't work. It was, again, a new concept, different for its time. It stood out and still stands out now. They had the perfect voice actors for not only the babies, but the parents, the granddad, and everything just clicked and worked perfectly. And a reboot, I don't know if a reboot will work. And I definitely don't know if anyone trying to make a show like Rugrats, it definitely wouldn't work. What I really would like to see is maybe a movie.
Yeah, they're doing
that. Would be
that.
Great.
They're doing that. They're doing that. They're re-airing. It said they're going to either start back the show 2018 or start showing reruns again, and they're going to do one more movie. So they're going to have 4 movies now, along with, like I said, Rocco, Invader Zim. All these older shows are getting feature films that either end the show or kind of show what happened after it did end.
And that's great because, I watched a lot of these shows, and a lot of them didn't get a finish. They were just canceled or taken off, and you really wanted to see how the story ended, so that is just awesome news. So Rugrats, we have to see who they get to end up doing Chucky because Christine Cavanaugh was
It might be Candy Milo because she did Dexter after a while. So yeah, they might get her.
Right. So that was one of the groundbreaking shows that Nickelodeon had. A second one, as I said, that aired after Ren and Stimpy, after on Sunday, was Ren and Stimpy. And Ren and Stimpy were 2 friends. One was a cat and one was a dog.
It didn't look like a cat or a dog.
And Ren was the high-strung, really kind of rude, aggressive one, and Stimpy was the lower-key, milder, kind of ditzy one.
Right.
But they had a great friendship, and they lived in a house. And
and they actually lived different places. Every episode they lived somewhere else. Either they were on the street, in a house, birdhouse, cage, someone else. It was like, okay, how are you living like this? How are you doing this every episode?
But their friendship was hilarious. The friendship was absolutely hilarious. And then you had some other characters that were secondary that would come in and kind of stretch the storyline from time to time. But again, another show that has stood the test of time. If you haven't ever seen Ren and Stimpy because it's before you were born or when you were really little, find an episode or two, get the DVDs, and you will be laughing hysterically. You will not sit and look at this show and go, wow, this is an old show. You're just going to look and go, this is hilarious.
Right.
The animation was also different from the way it was styled. It was a different style than any animated show had ever done. And it was quirky on top of it. And the voice actor, well, the dog was named Ren Hoek. Mm-hmm. And the cat was named Stimpy.
Stimpleton J. Cat.
Yeah, Stimpleton J. Cat. And they just had these really crazy, wild adventures that would just leave you laughing hysterically every single episode. And a lot of times, the cat had to get the dog out of trouble, or the dog had to get the cat out of trouble.
Right.
And then they would have their little falling outs because Ren and his personality was really abrasive, but you would always see that Stimpy would end up doing something to bring him back around. And there's one memorable episode.
Right.
Well, I'm going to let you talk a little, and I'll talk about one of my favorite episodes before I do that.
Okay.
Because you actually have seen him on DVD.
Right. And it was one episode where Ren was kind of angry all the time, and Steve was trying to help him so he'd be happy and relaxed. So he made this.
That was my favorite episode, but I want you to talk about what you liked about it first.
Oh.
Well, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. He made him. Apparently, he has a lab and can invent things. He's just too stupid not to do it all the time. And he made a machine where he'd be happy, but it was forcibly happy.
Right.
He was forced to smile.
It was a helmet.
Happy, yeah. And push a button. Every time you get angry, push a button.
And this song would play,
happy, happy, joy, joy, happy, happy, joy, joy, happy, happy, joy, joy. Like,
happy, joy, joy, happy, 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 joy, joy, joy.
Ding, 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 ding.
And Ren, oh my gosh, he was hating it so much, and finally he got a friggin' hammer and started trying to break the helmet off his head. Happy, happy, joy, joy, happy, happy, joy, joy, happy, 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 joy.
He was finished, and he was pissed off beyond like the angriest face ever made.
Oh man, that was a hilarious episode. He had to get it off his head, and then Stimpy felt bad because he realized how miserable that Ren was, and he apologized. Yeah. And again, you would always see this resolution to the problems they had. And another one, since you started bringing up episodes before you tell us what you like, that I really like is when Ren started getting these fan letters. And it went to his head. He got arrogant. And he says, oh, these letters are for me, not for you. And then one of the letters was signed off. He says, love. He says, love. Oh, my gosh. And then he ends up reading who wrote the letter, and it was Stimpy.
Yeah, he thought, what?
And then he felt like a
right, and then you saw, and his picture went from that was a picture of a butt. It's like you feel like that. And you're like, I'm so sorry.
Because Stimpy was getting all the fan letters,
right? And
Ren was getting none. So to make him feel better, he wrote a fan letter. So those are the episodes that put their friendship on display, and you would see these crazy ways where even when they had these disagreements, that they would end up in the end resolving them. And that was generally the majority of the show was about them working out these differences.
Right.
And again, as I said earlier, sometimes you'd have these secondary characters.
Right.
But since you are a younger viewer that's seeing many of these episodes on DVD, tell me what makes that show for you just memorable, and you loved it from the first time I showed it to you.
Okay, I think part of it, animation, before I got into animation, I think it was just so quirky and outrageous. It was just off the wall, nonsensical animation, and it was just really like on speed. It was things happening a million miles a minute, plus the jokes they would say, plus the things they would do. And it was also, some of the ideas were pretty good. Like I said, they were in a different setting just about every episode. And there was the one I remember the most, like they were really creative, like one where they were Canadian hikers and they were trying to go up the mountain, and eventually the yaks got tired of carrying them and they had to just carry the stuff, and the yaks started walking. Then one of the yaks started to go insane. They had to slap it out of insanity. He's like, oh, thanks, I needed that. The yaks could talk and interact with them. And the other one was also most memorable when every time Ren slapped Stimpy in the nose, he would turn into a blues singer. And he went on tour, and turned out the nose was the one singing. And every time he slapped him, if he slapped him once, he turned into a blues singer. Then he's not. Slapped him again, he's back to being stupid. So every time he had to slap him to become the singer.
And one that I really remember a lot, one of the characters that was a secondary character, was Powder Toast Man.
Oh my God!
And this character was voiced by someone that I never used to watch. I think his name's Gary Owens. He used to be on a show called Laughing back in the 60s. Yes.
Okay.
And I was so shocked. One of the few times she watched it with us, and she said she knew who it was, and she was right. And she hated Powder Toast Man because Powder Toast Man farted on the toast to make it smell, to take it taste good.
Oh my God!
So they had this one episode where the kid they wished for powder toast to be brought to them by Powder Toast Man. So he had the body of a human and the head of a slice of toast, and he had a cape. So he's a superhero. So Powder Toast Man delivered the toast, and the kids were really happy, the boy and the girl, and they bit the toast, and they were chewing it, and they were like, something's missing. So he came back and said, oh, kids, I forgot. He farts on the toast. And then all of a sudden you see the sprinkles and the sparkles. And then they bite into the toast and go, oh, yeah, that's great. It's perfect.
So he's got to fart on it or else it won't taste right. And he did actually get his own full-length episode. I guess they were planning to do a spin-off, which unfortunately didn't happen, but he got his own episode, and he had a little sidekick, and he actually would go save the world with his powder toast powers.
Right.
And those, even, I don't know if you know this.
Yes.
Before,
tell them anyway.
When they did a spin-off, it was supposed to be for adults. It only lasted a couple episodes because, unfortunately, it was too vulgar even for the adults to handle. He actually got a rival, was supposed to be, like I said, a spin-off for his own show called Waffle Woman, and almost the same power as him, but I guess she doesn't fire in the toast. And that was his rival, and that was going to be, like, the antagonist of his spin-off series, because he got a lot of popularity from that show.
Yeah, and I have to agree, for me, I like the little bits and pieces of I guess you could say dirty humor they would put in, but yeah, I agree. I thought that it was a little too vulgar for my taste, so I have to agree. And that was the second thing that I liked that other cartoons hadn't done. Also, and from time to time they would have their own little commercials. And one commercial that sticks out for me was a commercial about Log. And Log was literally a log that kids got to play with. And the song was done in the tune of the old Slinky commercial. And it was like, it's Log, it's big and heavy as wood. It's Log, it's better than bad than good. Come on and get your log. Everyone get your log.
I can go outside for that.
Blammo.
I can go outside for my log. I don't want to pay $20 for a log.
But it was hilarious. These things that they did were just different and just hilarious. And again, this was a groundbreaking show. None of this stuff had been done. It was almost like a variety cartoon show in the way that it was set up with the episodes and the commercials and the Powder Toast Man and everything. So we definitely had to talk about Ren and Stimpy, and we definitely had to talk about Rugrats because, I know that's classic Nickelodeon, but still, they were my favorites.
So now we go on to
Hey Arnold, which is the last classic one we're going to talk about that was early Nickelodeon. Hey Arnold was a show about a kid who
lived in the Bronx,
who was being raised by his grandparents and had a head literally shaped like a football, and he had these adventures with his best friend Gerald, and they attended school together, and there were all these quirky, wonderful characters that appeared within the show. So I'm going to be quiet a little bit because Rascal has actually gotten to see a few episodes as well as the final movie we'll mention. But I'll tell what made it great for me, even though at the time I was a young adult watching this. Tell me, for you, being a kid seeing these episodes for the first time, what made you really like Hey Arnold?
Well, for me personally, it would be, I think, the atmosphere. Because think about other shows we mentioned, Rugrats, Ren and Stimpy, Invaders, all these shows at the time it was on were all just zany, crazy, outrageous, wacky, off the wall, nonsensical humor. Then you get to Hey Arnold, and it's just a slice of life episode. It's really just calm, and it's still everyday things, but still is engaging and endearing to see these characters in the city and the neighborhood, and the more than just what you see in the first introduction episode. It's just a really calm atmosphere. Everyone was pretty, like I said, chill, and it was kind of different from what they had in the lineup, and the stories they would have were really impactful, and people still remember, like, the one with Pigeon Man, they said was the most impactful episode of the entire series and of people's childhood. And I know you remember lots of characters that came back. And I also remember the movie. They have the Hey Arnold movie where they save the neighborhood.
I really love this show for several reasons. One is because it was really clean. It was really safe for children of all ages to watch. Yet it was the writing was so good, and there were situations and childhood, going ons that teens could relate to, young adults could relate to, which made it great across the board viewing for everyone. And I really love that all of the characters that were kids were voiced by kids. That makes it just a historical cartoon in itself. A lot of times, which there's nothing wrong with, you have adults pretending to be kids. But for this show, every kid's voice was done by a kid. And I just thought that was wonderful, that all of these child actors not only got work, but they made these characters endearing and memorable just voicing them and being themselves. Arnold was sweet. Arnold was helpful. And he and Gerald had a great relationship as being best friends. You had characters that were memorable, like Helga and her sister Olga, and Olga's crazy parents. And you loved Arnold's grandparents. I mean, they kept calling him Short Stack, and it was so funny they kept calling him Short Man, and until the movie came out, I didn't understand why. And then you had characters that were memorable, like Stoop Boy, and that's one of my favorite episodes. Stoop Boy's afraid to leave his stoop. Stoop Boy's afraid to leave his stoop. And it was this tall, lanky kid that was kind of a bully, but he would bully from his stoop, which were the stairs. He lived in an apartment building, and the two stairs that he sat on were called a stoop. So he wouldn't do anything off the stoop, but he would do all this bullying and saying all these comments and things from the stoop. So Arnold did his best to get him off the stoop, because he told him, then you can enjoy life and you won't be as angry and blah, blah, blah. That's one of my favorite episodes, because it was just this mundane day with this character just afraid, that's a bully, but he's afraid to leave the steps where he lives. And Arnold, still knowing this, is like, hey, we need to get you off the stairs so you could live. And it was just memorable and full of humor and just a nice resolution, showing you the type of character Arnold was. The school they went to was memorable as well. And it was just a really nice show. And I have lots of favorite episodes. Too many to mention here, but I want to say Stoop Boy. And lastly, as you mentioned, Roscoe, we want to just briefly for a couple of minutes talk about the final movie, which gave us a closure to the series. Because when it was originally on and it was canceled, I was so upset, like a lot of fans were. We didn't understand what happened. Why'd you cancel? Why didn't you let this finish? The movie had been scheduled, and then it was canceled, and we were just so upset.
From what I heard or understand, is that the person who created it, the contract was he had to work with them specifically, all the projects. And if they didn't want a project, they couldn't do it. He did not want to work for them anymore because he wouldn't be exclusive. He couldn't branch out, work at other places at the same time. So he left the studio for years. And there's supposed to be a Jungle movie after the 2-part finale of the series. The Jungle movie is supposed to be the end where Arnold goes to find his parents finally, because they have been missing the whole series. And then years later, they finally, when he went back to Nickelodeon, they finally said, okay, we'll do the movie. And people were thrilled that they were finally going to see the end of this series.
And as I mentioned, I was excited because I love this show. And I have to say before you that the movie was perfect. It was perfect because it picked up right where the series left off. And it didn't even seem like there had been these, a decades where this show hadn't been on. And I don't know how they got people to voice these characters and they sounded just like the characters, but they did. There was a slight difference in the grandma. But other than that,
and those actually the same people. Yeah, I was surprised.
Well, maybe because she was older.
Yeah, possibly.
But, yeah, I didn't know that. It was awesome that they brought them back. It was great. It was like nothing had ever happened. It's like the show hadn't been gone, And we finally got to find out why Grandpa always called him Short Man, because Short Man was his last name.
Right.
And that was just like a what?
Right. And they knew it because they had a little sound effect and said, Arnold Short Man. And it said, Dong.
Yeah.
Like, what? That's your name?
But it was wonderful and was perfectly done. And if you haven't seen it, we don't want to ruin it, do any spoilers. But the ending was perfect. The movie was perfect from beginning to end. It was entertaining. And again, it was like nothing had... It took a white word. It was just like nothing had changed. Mm-hmm. And it was perfectly done. And the way that this was done, if they decide to bring this back as a series, they could pick right up where the movie left off, because it was just that well written and that well done that you just felt like, you were a kid again. You were a young adult again watching this show and just having a great time. So thank you, Nickelodeon and the creators, for this movie. I will be buying it because I know it's available now. And Nickelodeon, Hey Arnold, Rugrats, and Stimpy are a big part of my childhood. When Rugrats and Ren and Stimpy were on, I was not an adult. And they're a real big part of my childhood. So thank you for allowing me to share some of that joy with you. Thank you for watching some of those shows with me, Rascal. You made it even more memorable.
I'm surprised that you didn't, you haven't brought up a character with Helga.
I didn't want to spoil it, if the case they haven't seen it.
Well,
okay, she wants to talk about Helga.
Yeah, just a little bit, like what she does. That's it.
Helga is one of the characters from Hey Arnold, and she has a hidden crush on Arnold. But she's this really gruff kind of... she's not a bully, but she's gruff and... not likable to a lot of people, but inside she's a really nice person. So she treats Arnold, really rudely and talks to him really rude. And she's the one who calls him, "Hey, football head," and that's where he gets the nickname from. But in her home, in her closet, there's this shrine to Arnold that Rascal thought was hilarious when she saw the movie.
It's like, what the heck is this? And you got a little picture of him and a little heart-shaped locket, and she just oh my gosh, the way she speaks about this kid, and I won't do anything for him. This fine specimen of a man, he's 12 years old.
And then there's this one kid, I don't remember the name, sorry, that he has like this breathing thing, and he always, when she starts in public whispering these sweet nothings about Arnold, he always ends up coming behind her, and she takes her fist and she always knocks him out, and he falls backwards because he's heard what she's talking about. So this character Helga is one of the most memorable characters from Hey Arnold, and I guess that's why Rascal wanted me to mention her.
Yeah, because she was hilarious.
You have to see it to believe it and to understand it. And again, it's just such a clean, wholesome show. There's no other way to put it. It goes in the record books for being a show that really didn't have innuendo or dirty humor or any type of meanness or callousness
or
just bullies that really tortured kids. It was just nice. It was a nice 30 minutes to watch every week, and then it went to being aired in reruns every day in the afternoons for half an hour. So thank you, Nickelodeon, for these 3 shows that really were a big part of my childhood. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay, so our final show we're going to talk about is The Adventures of Jimmy Neutron, which is a spin-off of its movie Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius, which I remember, I love, and I still own to this day the original DVD.
And how she was introduced to the show Jimmy Neutron is that one of her uncles bought her one as a gift when we were out once, and she had never seen Jimmy Neutron at that time. And it had what was considered the best episodes or favorite episodes, including what was the name with the pants? The one with the
When Pants Attack. That was like the first one.
And once she saw that video, we watched it over and that DVD over and over. The DVD got worn out. We watched it so much. And then the next thing that she watched over and over was the Jimmy Neutron movie.
Right.
So this Jimmy Neutron is really a huge part of her childhood. But it was one that I was able to enjoy with her which made it so special is why we left it for last.
Right. And I know that people say that, oh, sometimes they say, oh, the show wasn't all that great as the movie. I personally have to disagree because it left room for so much more to be done. It still had the same spirit of the movie, just shrank down into an hour or half hour, depending if it had special or not.
Right.
And it has so many memorable episodes and
was
lines.
the movie before the TV show?
Yes, the movie was first, and the show was a spinoff, which is why the animation was slightly different. But they
right.
still had the whole cast from the movie come back. So yeah, and it was really fun, a really fun show. Great episodes, great ideas. Every time you turn around, the invention went wrong because someone screwed it up. And
this is also a starting board for a lot of great voice actors like Debbie Derryberry,
right.
Kathy Soucie.
I think was Rob Paulson. And who did Sheen?
I don't remember.
I'm about to say Emilio Estevez. I know that is not right. No. Oh my gosh.
That's who he liked. That was his name.
Right.
His name was Sheen Estevez.
Right.
Which is a shout out to Emilio Estevez.
I know it wasn't that. I know it wasn't that. But yeah, it was really just fun and creative, and I loved a lot of episodes of it. And I think one of my top favorites would be, like, the most memorable thing is when they had the Jet Fusion, which is like a real life spy who's in movie and in real life.
Right.
And they had the enemy was Professor Calamitous, his daughter Beautiful, he's gonna get married to his daughter Beautiful Gorgeous. And then she was
voiced by.
What was her name?
It wasn't Jessica
I'm sorry,
Walter.
I never
thought
remember
it was
her
Jessica
name.
Walter, but it wasn't Jessica Walter.
I never remember her name. I'm sorry. And she tricked him into marrying her for some evil plot. And
Wendy Malick.
There you go.
Who voiced Beautiful Gorgeous.
Right. And she tricked him to marry her, so because some evil plot against all the spy organization. And the process was it was about the ring. I have the ring, and that will be the trigger word. And then everyone said, "I got the ring." I got the ring, and then eventually, to distract them, it went into a song. It's like, I got the ring. Yes, I have the ring. I got the ring right here. I have the ring. Yes, I have the ring. Oh, I got the ring right here. And that was it. And the catchiest thing of the whole episode.
that I love that too. And there were just so many great episodes. I don't recall, and I don't believe there is one episode of that show that was not funny.
Right.
There's not one episode that was boring or you're like, why did they make this or why did they write this? And the great thing about it was that you had this boy genius who was so brilliant that he had discovered how to communicate with alien life. And so not only were the day-to-day things adventures because of all these inventions and things he create, but also because of how he was able to contact aliens and the things that would ensue as a result of them going to different planets or the aliens coming here.
Right, and that, like I said, that was the movie, and I don't think I want to spoil it.
That happened in the show too. No.
Oh yeah,
they came back. That's what I'm saying. So just that entire show, that was pretty much all that happened.
Right.
Either it was his inventions or their interactions with his inventions or their interactions with alien life, either because they went somewhere or they came back. They even went left in the show one time, you've forgotten, where they went to another planet.
Oh, I do remember.
Okay.
Another one of my favorite episodes, Win, Loser, Kaboom.
Yeah.
And they had Tim Allen do the voice of the game shows. They were stuck on this intergalactic game show. If they didn't participate, they would blow up the planet. So they had to do all these stupid things and just chaos. And they couldn't do much because Jimmy was taking over. And there was just all these shout outs to game shows that adults and kids know. And for the fate of the planet, it was like a little TV movie. And I love that. And the last thing I remember and I loved was the crossover 3 times with Fairly Odd Parents in the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour 1, 2, and 3.
Brilliant. We own which ones?
We don't own any of them. We don't own any of the Power Hours.
You do have one on DVD.
Oh, no, I thought I did, but I loved all the crossovers they did every single time it was fun. And half the time,
I think the best one was Channel Chasers, right?
Well, that wasn't a crossover.
Okay. And
I think the best, sorry, again. My one of the funniest parts of it was Jimmy and Timmy were always competing for Cindy, and she was a whole nother show when Timmy was trying, was on a date with her, and Jimmy was getting upset, and everyone kept thinking, this small-headed Jimmy, and they're like, I'm Timmy, just because you change your name doesn't mean I don't recognize you, and they're like, I'm Timmy, how many times I gotta say that?
So this was a great show, great voice actors, and I liked also, for the movie, how at the end you could watch the special features, and the songs that were featured in the movie were featured at the end in a music video. And Nickelodeon at that time was really big into pop music and having a lot of pop artists, even bigger and more successful than Disney was at that time in doing music. So they had quite a few artists that made the charts, the Billboard charts. I think the guy, I don't want to get his name wrong, Aaron Carter was the one who did the songs for the movie and for Jimmy Neutron. And they were just groundbreaking with the show, with the music, with the concept. And just like the other Nickelodeon shows we've talked about earlier, this show, there's nothing like it. There hasn't been anything like it since. You've had copies with major characters that are geniuses and they try to show their lives, but the way in which Jimmy Neutron was done was just brilliance. Brilliance with a genius as the lead character. Brilliant.
Right.
It was just great and hilarious. And we didn't talk about the characters, like there was Jimmy and then his friend Sheen, and then the friend that used the inhaler all the
time,
Carl
Weezer.
Oh my gosh. And then, as you mentioned, Cindy and Libby, who were two girls that were best friends. And as you said, Jimmy had a crush on Cindy but would always deny it. And she had a crush on him and would always deny it.
Right, and that was always a big part of the show, back and forth, like, look, we all know you like each other. Why don't you just go ahead and say it? We're tired of this.
Right. And then you had Goddard, who was his mechanical dog.
Right.
And Goddard could do all these wonderful things. And he saved the day a lot. And then Jimmy's parents were a huge part of the show.
Right.
Because they were just nutty as a fruitcake. But they loved Jimmy.
Right. And didn't have to keep, usually in shows like this, you have to keep it your genius and your laboratory a secret. And here, no. They fully know about his lab and his inventions and stuff. They just try to make sure he doesn't blow himself up when he does the inventions or cause chaos. And they're fine with it. The whole town knows about him. And it's just like, we're like, oh, here's Jimmy. It's he's like the annoying genius kid in school that never shuts up about his inventions.
Right. And the dad had this hobby where everything was ducks.
Right.
And the mom was the one who was kept the household together.
Right.
And she was really nice and everyone liked her, but she could be stern with Jimmy. The dad never could be, but the mom was the one who was the stern one in this show. And this was another show that was wholesome, clean, fun, hysterical, and there not a bad episode in the entire series. So if you've never seen it, I don't know if there's a DVD available of the show.
Well, they do have some DVDs, but I'm not sure if they have the entire series collection available.
Now, what's great about Nickelodeon is last year, toward the middle part of the year, they began to put on DVD all these series in their entirety. They've got Danny Phantom, they've got Hey Arnold,
Chalk Zone,
they've got and Rocko's Modern Life. They've always had SpongeBob because that's just their moneymaker, SpongeBob. They have the Mighty Bee. No. What else do they have?
That's Doug.
Okay.
And a lot of others.
So just go into Amazon, which is where I know they're available, and type in Nickelodeon TV series, and you'll see all these series pop up, and the prices are really, really reasonable. They are as cheap as $9.99 to as high as $35, which when you think about it, for an entire series, paying $35, and we're talking about multiple years, like in some cases 3 years or more, that's just a great price.
Right.
And it's worth the investment if you really are a lover of Nickelodeon and Nickelodeon cartoons and you just want to see some of the classic shows that you weren't able to see. It's worth the investment. If you're not sure, go on to YouTube, type in and just watch some clips, and you'll see why these shows are not only my favorite in some instances, but Rascal's as well.
Wow, we talked so much about Nickelodeon, and it's just
finally
all right. And like I said, everything they have from the shows, the promos, everything, the movies were always fun, whether in theaters or not. And like I said, we pretty much the one thing you remember the most about the promos was Nickelodeon.
And then you had the paint splash, and
the
you
slime,
had
and the Kids Choice Awards, which they still have, and of course, which I didn't know till I went online. They used to have a doo-wop as the thing,
yes.
And that's how I got to the Nickelodeon theme.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow. So that's why we kind of only mentioned a little bit, because most of it was that, but it was still memorable. And of course, the Not Just Cartoons song they created for their show, I thought that was pretty great too, which you can see online.
And the Kids' Choice Awards, I think, was something great that they did. We watched it at one time. We actually would go online and vote in the different categories to see if any of our people would win. But I think it's great getting young viewers engaged in and taking part in voting on shows they actually love. And then if you're able, to be able to go and be at one of the actual award ceremonies, and you see these people, artists and actors and actresses and comedians, and just different people that are part of kids and teens world on a day-to-day basis. That's a great thing as well. So thank you, Nickelodeon, not only for my wonderful memories, but the memories of Rascal, and for the many more memories to come. There's a lot of new shows that are out there. From what we understand, I think a lot of them are live action, which is why
mostly
we're not
sitcoms
about them. Right.
too.
But thank you, Nickelodeon, for all the great cartoons that you've given us, and we look forward to you hopefully one day going back to fundamentals and making some more awesome animated shows.
Yep. All right. So next
Saturday,
we have an epic theme music list starting at midnight.
And we're really excited about this because it's some of the best theme music ever for both animated and live action. And since the live action movies are based on comics and animated series, they are included. So, see you then.
Yep. All right, that wraps things up for us. I'm Rascal Entertainments.
And I'm Mama Entertainments.
Have a toontastic day.
Peace.
And reporters sitting, flashing lights, trying to walk around, man, who the hell are you? What you want to do? Well, man, it's on you. Man, it's on you. With her in my dreams, she was my queen. A castle in the mountaintops, rivers and streams. Plucking sunlight from the sky in my pocket.